Good evening, everyone. How are you doing tonight? Good. I want to welcome you to Mountain Stream Meditation. My name is Adam Stonebreaker. I think I know most of you. And I'm the guiding teacher here. And I'll have more of an introduction later for Kittasaro, but I just want to go ahead and hand it over to Kittasaro to lead us in meditation. And well, actually, let me say how the evening will go. We'll have a meditation, and then we'll have a break, and then a Dharma talk, Q&A, and then metta. So without further ado, Kittisaro, welcome. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Adam, and the Mountain Stream Sangha, the Mountain Stream family. I am happy and blessed to be able to be with fellow kindred spirits, fellow beings sensitive to the urgency, importance, the essential movement of returning to sanity, returning to something trustworthy, rooting again and again our lives in that which is true, wise, compassionate. So I'm very happy to be with you this evening. As I'm going to talk a little bit about the power of recitation, I want to talk a little later in my discourse. I want to start, as I do in my own practice, with a few minutes of honoring what is worthy of honor. That's what the Buddha called puja. And an important dimension of the Buddha's teachings was recitation, which is remembering the teachings, but also a certain kind of recitations that he called puja. And it's when one makes sounds, reciting words or phrases or syllables or mantras that have a certain intent. The intent is to honor, to appreciate, to cherish. And so I would like to begin with a few minutes of honoring what is worthy of honor, which the Buddha said when we do that, we plug into measureless blessings. Because all the chants, all the recitations, where do they point? They point to Buddha, to awakening, the source of wisdom, compassion, courage, empathy, all these measureless qualities. That ground, that Buddhic awakened ground of awareness from which there can be all these auspicious things: kindness, compassion, joy, peace, empathy. But also when the connection to our essential nature is convoluted, distorted, obscured, we can get caught into all sorts of manifestations of a separative consciousness, of a hatefulness or greed or confusion. So when one is chanting, I'll just recite a few words honoring the Buddha. I'm honoring this noble, awakened one. Which, yes, there's a historical Buddha, but what the Buddha pointed to again and again and again and again and again in his teachings that have now touched us, still touching us, 2,500 some odd years later. What the Buddha was pointing to is that centrality of awareness. So I'm going to recite a few sounds in the traditional way that's been passed down over the centuries and millennium. And the way that the Buddha described how these refuges of what it is we're really learning to trust, this power of the Buddha awakening, the power of the Dharma, these true teachings that are pointing us to ultimately merge with the true nature, the power of Sangha, this blessing of having wholesome friendship, people that can encourage us, remind us, warn us. These are the three sources of inspiration. So I would like to make some sounds in the traditional way, honoring. And as I'm chanting, if you wish to just appreciate our good fortune, to have this refuge, to have these teachings, to have this community. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Ittipiso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho vicha chalana sampanno sugato lokavedu anuttalo apurisatama salati satta devamanusanang buddho bhagava tisavakato bhagavata dhammo santitiko akaliko ehipasiko o panayiko pachatang vetitabo ven yuhi tisupati pano bhagavato savakasanko ujupati pano bhagavato Nyayapatipanno bhagavato savakasankho sammichipatipanno bhagavato savakasankho yaditang chuttali purisa yuganiya tapurisa pugala esa bhagavato savakasankho unayo pa unayo dokinayo Anjali kalaniyo anuttarang punyaketang lo kasati. Honoring what is worthy of honor. The Buddha says, generates great blessing. Beginning our time together in meditation by moments of appreciating the miracle of awareness. This knowing what posture we're in. How do we know whether we're sitting, standing, or lying down, or moving, walking? The posture of the body is now manifesting within this miracle, this mystery of consciousness. As we breathe in and out, receiving this gift from our family in the plant kingdom, this gift of oxygen. We breathe in what the trees breathe out. What we breathe out, the trees breathe in. Just appreciating that we can be aware of this body and its posture, breathing, receiving this life-giving breath from Mother Nature, from the natural kingdom, the natural sacred mystery. appreciating this Dharma, this way of things. We can Buddha Dharma, be in moments aware of the body through the force of gravity, touching ground. However, our body is being pulled to, supported by ground. That sensation, that pressure, that solidity, receiving that in this, into this quality of knowing, of awareness. Breathing in and out, feeling that brightening, enlivening quality, appreciating that in the in-breath. Relaxing on the out-breath as we allow that gift, that blessing to suffuse through the body. Breathing in and out, giving the body permission to breathe as it needs. Sometimes it's helpful to take a few long, quiet, slow in and out breaths, because we sometimes unconsciously tense up. It's breathing in full as we receive that gift, and the long out breath as we soften the forehead, the jaw, the shoulders. Relaxing and letting the ground, earth support us. As we listen in to the body, this little body, and its orientation to earth, this immeasurable, limitless ground, our body will want to adjust its posture. Perhaps we can lean a bit from one side to the other, forward and back. Find that place where that is, if we're sitting, where we're aligned, balanced. And so then this little body becomes aligned with this earth body. And we partake of the earth's deep, immeasurable steadiness, strength. Relaxing with each in and out breath, allowing the body to align with ground. Upright if we're sitting, and yet at ease. Gathering into this appreciation, the sensations of the head, face. As we breathe in and out, allowing the breath to mingle with this knowing of the sensation of the head, face, the temperature. Those sensations mingling with the in and out of breath, softening on each out breath, widening the awareness to include the neck and shoulders. However we experience them, kindly, patiently, being with those sensations as we breathe in and out, a subtle softening as one relaxes. Perhaps the posture will subtly adjust as we sense how the head is connected through the neck and shoulders. The Buddha encouraged this widening of awareness as we're with breathing, so that the different parts of the body then their energies can homogenize, can mingle, can balance. So including the hands and arms, shoulders. As we're breathing in and out, is it possible to be aware of the hands, left and right hand, arms, shoulders, and head? However we sense these aspects of our body, being patient, kind with them as we breathe in and out, relaxing on the out breath. Anywhere that's uncomfortable, the awareness can zoom in for a little while as we breathe in and out, and then on an out breath, widen, so that something that's tense or sluggish or uncomfortable, so that that part of the body then becomes connected to the surrounding parts. The chest and upper back, as we breathe in and out, being touched by this alchemy of awareness. However those sensations are, without judgment. Kindly, patiently being with an in and out breath as we appreciate the sensations in the chest, upper back. And on out breaths, relaxing, noticing shoulders, elbows, hands, head. This upper part of the body, aware. Body-mind connected. The body appreciates being embraced by the mind. The mind is steadied by staying with the stabilizing vibration of the body. Body-mind connected. Widening the awareness to include the lower back, the belly. Breathing in and out, how is it to welcome, be at ease with, well with, however that dimension of the body is feeling now, the belly, lower back. Breathing in and out as we allow those sensations to become conscious. Belly, lower back, widening the lens of awareness to include the shoulders and the hands, the head. This whole upper part of our body, blessed by kindness and a listening. The Buddhic awakened power of listening into. Sounds passive, but as we are aware of listening into the belly, the back, the shoulders, the head, there's a transforming, a subtle brightening, a balancing that is a function of awareness. pelvic area, the buttocks, thighs, legs. If we're sitting, this base, breathing in and out as we're noticing the hips, buttocks, thighs, knees, feet, left side, right side. The Buddha taught that actually the body appears within awareness. These parts of the bodies are appearing within our listening, within our consciousness. As we breathe in and out, relaxing on each out breath, allow the awareness to be steadied on that simple sensations, shifting, pulsing sensations. The hips, thighs, knees, feet. Widening. Is it possible to be aware of the whole body without judgment, just however it appears? So this is a wide, receiving within awareness the sense of our whole body from the crown of the head down to the soles of the feet. As we breathe in and out, can we be aware of the whole body? With each out breath, we're soothing and calming the body mind. Breathing in and out, letting be, relaxing, allowing the alchemy, the healing alchemy of kind, patient inner listening to bless this body mind. Within this presence that we've cultivated together for a few minutes, appreciating this mysterious, invisible and yet inherent power of listening, of awareness, to know the nature of things. Within this presence, noticing that the breath that's nourishing us now is changing every moment, expanding, contracting. The sensations becoming otherwise, moment after moment, interwoven with vibrating sounds and ephemeral perceptions and thoughts. And yet, relatively, there's a relative calm as we give ourselves permission to pause and just be with the body, sitting or whatever posture we're in. And yet within the stillness of the posture, the vibratory, ephemeral, ever-changing movement of sound, sensation, feeling tone. Even with all that change, though, how mysterious there can be serenity, stillness within the movement, movement within the stillness. The Buddha taught meditation for moments of refreshing, healing, rejuvenation, which is important. And he also taught us that having experienced some calm, some stillness, we can also use this inherent resource, virtue of wisdom, to see into the nature and free ourselves from any assumptions, purifying the heart of biases, resting in our timeless, ultimately deeply still nature. Thank you, everyone. Let's just take 5 minutes to stretch if that's helpful. And then I will offer some reflections on the Dharma. So see you in a few minutes.
All right, so welcome back. And I forgot to welcome people on Zoom. Hello. And if you're new here, extra special welcome. Um, what to say about hmm? Oh, oh. What to say about Kittisaro? I could probably spend the rest of our time together talking about Kittisaro. um, uh, gosh, I consider Kittisaro and his wife Tanisra to be my primary teachers, root teachers. And I found Kittisaro. Somebody pointed him out to me, I think 14 years ago, something like that. Um, and someone said, I think you'd really like him. And I turned him on Dharma Seed. And it was the first time I had heard the Dharma spoken in a Southern accent. And I immediately felt a kinship with him. We're both Tennesseans. We're both born in Tennessee. And hearing so much heart and uh, just this really, really beautiful Dharma transmission from Kittisaro just inspired me. And without Kittisaro and without Tanisra, I wouldn't be standing here right now. They gave me lots of opportunities to teach and to practice. And I just am very much indebted to Kittisaro and Tanisra. Um, just a few biographical highlights of Kittisaro. He uh, again, I could take the rest of this time talking about his bio, but just some highlights. Kittisaro ordained with Ajahn Chah and spent lots of, I don't know how many years with Ajahn Chah in Thailand. And then with Ajahn Sumedho came to England and founded two monasteries there, Chethurst and Devon Vihara. And then from there, he disrobed and Tanisara and Kittisaro were married, partnered up, and they moved to South Africa and opened Dharmagiri, which is a Dharma center there. And that was, they moved at a very tumultuous time at the end of apartheid, and the AIDS pandemic was uh, was going on there at the same time. So they entered there and brought the Dharma to a place where the Dharma wasn't really present. And then after many years there, now he and Tanisra live in Sebastopol, and they founded Sacred Mountain Sangha, which is where they primarily teach from. And I'm on the teaching team there as well. So again, I could go on and on. I will stop there. Kittasaro, thank you so much. I've been trying to get them here ever since I came here, and so very, very happy to have you and grateful for you to be here.
Thank you, Adam, and the Mountain Stream family for such a warm welcome. And you have, I see, such a beautiful shrine room. I hope it's not too long till Tanisra and I can be there in person. And I'm delighted to see you in such a beautiful place with interested fellow beings to encourage one another in practicing the path. Adam, it's an important time to encourage and inspire one another because the Dharma is very essential for helping us find stability in the midst of disorientation, in the midst of challenge, in the midst of that which is we've relied upon seeming to be falling away, in the midst of harm, to be able to remember what is trustworthy. What is trustworthy? You know, refuge refuge is important. It means a safe place. Refuge, the Buddha, this is a word the Buddha used right from the beginning when he was transmitting, thinking, how can what I know, how can I share what I know? This experience of freedom, deep peace, unshakable peace, this sense of having been rooted in, unshakably rooted in the true nature. And the unexpected dimension of that was, it wasn't something that they got hold of. How ironic. It was a relinquishment of all these false notions, these confusions that revealed something that the Buddha called original brightness. He called it, he called it many things, but one of the things he called it was Tathagata Garbha, this primordial matrix. That's where original comes from, primordial. Sometimes Garbha can be translated as womb, that which then gives birth to Tathagata, to the awakened ones. He realized in recognizing this mechanism from ignorance on the night of his awakening, that in ignorance we avijja paccaya sankhara, that's this first link in the chain that leads from ignorance to suffering, birth and death. He realized there was this imagining of this and that, mine, me and you, in here, out there, and that in that grasping, he was generating, this is where this word sankhara comes from, that the consciousness was actually manifesting something that it thought was trustworthy, and grasping at me and mine and you and them, that actually what was happening, one was relying on a misunderstanding, and that original brightness, that original peace that is always shining, was being obscured. And so right after the Buddha's awakening, when he was thinking, how can this be transmitted, this notion of refuge came as a something, a place of safety, a trustworthy place, a place where we can realign, recover, a place that can help guide our way, in a sense, carry us. It can become a vehicle, carry us home to this original brightness that's always here. I chanted, one of the phrases I chanted were the way the Buddha described the Dharma, the true nature of Dharma. Another way of describing Dharma is the way of things, the natural way, the natural law, the suchness of reality is the Dharma, which includes materiality, our bodies, planets, things, buildings, screens, includes and then consciousness, this, that we're aware of body and form, of being here. It's nighttime, and that there are, you can't point to them, but we experience feeling tones of being pleased by what we see and hear and feel, that which is pleasant, or that which is difficult to be with, what we would, the heart might recoil from, that which we call painful, and the whole spectrum from pleasant through neutrality to pain. That this Dharma, includes form and feeling, and then the subtle perceptions, thoughts, volitions, and this way in which we intend and create, go towards some things, go away from some things. This Dharma, when the Buddha was thinking of refuge, what can carry beings back home to the true nature of this Dharma, that when the Buddha deeply listened in, to the experience, as we are all doing we calm down a bit in our meditation. Then when we turn some of that calm, what the Buddha called vipassana, yes, appreciate calm for refreshing, steadying. Then our capacity to see becomes more trustworthy. If we only attach the calm, the Buddha said, well, it's skillful, but then that's just so impermanent. The wind blows, the calm gets dispersed. But if we use some of that calm to then inquire, then with that more trustworthy instrument of investigation, one can vipassana, see into the nature. And when the Buddha looked into the nature of sights and sounds, smells, tastes, sensations, moments of knowing and forms, and saw that they were all shifting, changing, and that even though language was telling us, no, that's this and that, and it is and it isn't, language was splitting things up into all these parts. But with the Buddha's deep wisdom, seeing in the, yes, even though we're talking about in-breath and out-breath as two separate things, even though we can talk about Kittisaro saying words that sound like things, when one listens in, and then one's insight, one's wisdom sees that each of those words is vibrating and dissolving back into listening. Each in-breath dissolves into an out-breath. And when he deeply investigated all these apparent things, he realizes they were all deeply merging in one unified, unshakable, timeless, deathless ground, which one can call our true nature, the Buddha, the Tathagata Garbha, the original brightness, all these different names one can give. And each name is just a name. He also called it the peaceful, Nibbana, the beautiful. But rather than getting people to believe in it, yes, he felt it was important to get people to trust. Yes, we all have these treasures within us. But the Buddha taught refuge as a way of helping guide us back to knowing that for ourselves. So when I was reciting these qualities of the Dharma, I said that the Dharma, this true nature, is sanditiko, always here. Akaliko, it's timeless, whether it's a good time or a bad time, a daytime or a nighttime, a blessed time or a cursed time. The true nature is always shining because everything merges back into this ground. And when we cultivate this awareness, the essence of Buddha, awareness of the way things are, the way things are, the way life is manifesting is how the Dharma is teaching us. And the Sangha is the power of a good friend to encourage us. That's the external dimension of Sangha. But deeply and essentially, the essence of Sangha is our moment-to-moment befriending. It's an activity. The way the Buddha defined Sangha, it's that practice when we're returning to a moment of presence. It's befriending the good, the insightful, the patient. Now, within that, I wanted to talk a little bit this evening about something that's very important to me, and it might be old hat to you or it might be new, but I wanted to bring it up. The Mountain Stream said, what would you like to talk about? And so I thought I would talk about something that's really helpful for me as a practice, returning to this dimension of refuge and deepening the trust in refuge. And so I said in my write-up, I said, I'd like to reflect on the power and efficaciousness of mantra and sacred word exploring how that practice relates to the deepening of refuge. Chanting, or internally holding a sacred word, is a pathway for cultivating the skillful use of thought and gradually learning how to recognize and abide in the timeless, unified heart that is not bound by thought. Recitation is a powerful tool for freeing the heart from conceptual proliferations and returning to the home ground of the luminous, silent, ever-listening awareness, within which the whole world appears and dissolves. So for some of you, recitation might be a big practice or sacred word or mantra. It might be new. I want to say some words tonight encouraging, and that's why I did some recitation at the beginning. Encouraging to just ponder this if you're new to it, explore it. The practice of the path has been at the center of my life since what, 76, or what's that? 24, 34, 44, 49 years, almost 50 years. And in 15 years in the monastery, we did a lot of chanting. One aspect of recitation is remembering teachings. But notice in recitation, when you're sounding something, it's carried on the out-breath, the life-giving breath. And those sounds are vibrating through the body. The recitations are all about these teachings of the true nature of the mind, the nature of suffering and the ending of suffering, the nature of form and feeling, and that within all of this manifestation, there is that which is timelessly bright, beckoning us. So that longer chant I did when I was, for example, chanting the qualities of the Dharma, Sanditiko, Akaliko, Ehipassiko, Opanaiko, Pachatang Vetita Boenyuhi. Each of those sounds was talking about a quality of this nature. One of the qualities is Ehipassiko. Ehi means come, Passiko means see. So one of the descriptions of this true nature that we're swimming in, we are a part of. And our true nature is not apart from the totality. And the Buddha said this true nature is ehipassiko. It's always inviting us. There's a dimension, a luminous, ever-present, peaceful, unshakable dimension of being, of heart, that's always here and now, that we don't need a special pass for. But why don't we know that? Because our thoughts are telling us, no, Kittisaro, thank you very much, but I'm on my way to getting calmer. No, I just don't have time to talk. I'm on my way to success. Oh no, I'll get back to you when I get rid of this obstacle. Thinking is making us always think that there's somewhere else to get to and something we have to get rid of. That seems innocent. There's nothing evil about that. But that's the engine of samsara. Because in the thinking we've got to get to the good stuff, that already generates a reality that our true nature is not here. It's a desert here. I'm getting to the good stuff. I'm getting rid of the bad stuff. So a sacred word, for example, the first mantra I learned in the monastery was Buddho, Buddho. Sound familiar? Well, Buddha, Buddha, Buddha is like talking about an awakened one. The historical Buddha or other Buddhas in the cosmos, Buddho in the nominative case means this Buddha, the timeless, when we have a moment of presence, a moment of acknowledging how we are at this moment, we're aligning with, utilizing this Buddhic, this Buddho. First mantra, Ajahn Chah taught me, when you're doing mindfulness of the breath, we can't just think about this and think about that. How do we stay with what we're doing? That's what many of us already have, a technique where we're might be telling ourselves, mindfully breathe in, mindfully breathe out. Or peacefully in, peacefully out. Sometimes people use a thought to number, count the breaths. So rather than thinking any old thought, one is using a thought to help the awareness stay right here with this moment. When we've gotten lost, what is a skillful thought? A skillful thought would be, how is it now? That's a thought. It's what the Buddha calls not just any old thought. It's a vitakka. It's a special kind of thought. That's a thought that has a purpose. In this case, a purpose that's helping on the path. It's bringing us back to the moment. But it's not just what's happening now. If you just fill your mind with what's happening now, what's happening now, what's happening now, we're just caught in the thought. The purpose of the thought is to bring us back and then to listen. So the thought, if it's really functioning, wakes us up, brings us back, but then we receive. So we let the thought end and then listen. A sacred word, like my first mantra, Buddho, Buddha on the in-breath, To on the out-breath, Buddho. It just means Buddha. It took me a long time to get used to it, but that's why I want to share. Or you can just breathe in and breathe out, Buddho. It's just a little sound. It's like a bubble popping. But that sound, you let the word do its thing and then it goes silent. It reminds the heart to then listen. That's how we then merge with Buddha. It's what Ajahn Chah calls being Buddha. Puru, he would say. That's the one that knows. We don't put the Buddha out somewhere else. The Buddha's teachings were to encourage us to align with that. Similarly, when you have the thought, the skillful thought, what's happening now, you let that thought end, and that question clears the mind, and for a moment we just, wow, I'm worried. That question. Well, a mantra like Buddho is just enough to bring the attention to the moment, and then it dissolves. Buddho, as we're, for example, if we're combining it with the in-breath, it's an inner whispering, Buddha on the in-breath, To on the out-breath. And it's encouraging us to relax. It took me a while. I didn't really appreciate, because I was so greedy for the peaceful states. I would get a little peaceful in meditation. I wanted more, like a snapping turtle. I'd get a little peaceful and I just wanted more of that. And it wasn't until I was really sick and I encountered and I didn't know how to get better. I was a monk. I almost died of typhoid. And then I read from the wonderful Chinese masters of the Mahayana lineage about the power of Kuan Yin. and that Kuan Yin could help beings with illness. There's no illness Kuan Yin can't help you with. And that the Buddha taught how holding Kuan Yin's name, just like Bhutto, would help bring the power of healing and compassion. What was so interesting about Kuan Yin's name? Kuan, it's Chinese for Avalokiteshvara. That's Kuan Yin's Sanskrit name. Kuan means Avalokita, it means to hear or to listen or to regard. Yin means sounds. Kuan Yin's name means the one who listens to the sounds of the world at ease. And when I could get a little patient and a little kind, I realized, yeah, kindness is real. And when I get a little wiser than I was, I realized, wow, there's such a thing as being confused and such a thing as being a little bit more understanding. And so if we can see that there can be, we can recognize we can get a little more patient, a little more kind, a little more wise. Can't we be open to measureless wisdom and compassion? That's what a Buddha is, and the great bodhisattvas. And something in the translation of the one who listens to the sounds of the world at ease. When I hold Kuan Yin's name internally in my breathing or meditation or daily life, I use Namo Kuan Shi Yin Pusa. Namo just means I return my life. It means I relax as I hear Kuan Yin's name, reminds me just to relax and listen. Holding that mantra encourages one to deepen in the refuge of just listening and being with the nature of things. So, yes, it's just a technique, but the word keeps dissolving and encouraging us to listen into that which is prior to words. Words come and go. Right now, my words are coming and going. But even when the word ends, we don't keel over. There's still that dimension of our being that's vibrant, awake, listening. So all of my worries and doubts were leading me away from the root, the true refuge. A mantra like Kuan Yin reminds one, you just let that mantra in one's daily life remind one, oh, relax and listen at ease. Then when I went back to Bhutto, this is over the years, that simple mantra, the first one Ajahn Chah taught me, then made more sense. Our thoughts are always leading us this direction, that direction. Having to get there, having to get away from things. That's what the Buddha called conceptual proliferation. We're just so assailed by our thoughts, so busy chasing, getting rid of the power of a thought that comes back. But a thought like Buddha or Kuan Yin, now when Bhutto appears in my heart with an in-breath and Bhutto, over my years of practice, I have a deep trust that the Buddhas weren't lying to us. They're really pointing us to a treasure that's right here. And as that word appears and then dissolves, it reminds me, and with Kuan Yin's encouragement too, reminds me just to trust. And my Western teacher encouraged us to mind the gaps between the thoughts. So even though we might be using a sacred word, that sacred word just wakes us up, and then we mind or we listen into the gap, the deep silence, listening silence. Before the next word, the next breath. The Buddha taught that thought is useful, but when we get so entangled in our thoughts, he identified this proliferation of thought, this compulsive thinking that just generates complexity. He identified that as this root cause that leads to this just thinking, that then leads to just wanting, desires, that leads to what the Buddha called just making what is so precious to me, liking and disliking, making a big split in the world about what I want, what I don't want. And that it led to being stingy, just my stuff, and resentful of others. That it was the root cause was this thinking that's been tinged with a proliferating tendency. A sacred word, or even just any word. I am sitting. It's so important to begin to touch our language with listening. Even the simple, nothing sacred about I am sitting, that truth. But I am sitting, and that sound dissolves back into listening. The Buddha encouraged us to learn to train ourselves to appreciate not having to depend on thought, using thought as a tool. But then we use a tool for the garden, but we don't have to carry the rake and the spade and the hose into the dinner table. Oh, no, you never know when you might need a little extra water. That's true. And the rake's handy. It's true. We're holding these all the time. We get encumbered. The Buddha taught thought as a tool to use and let go. And he taught thought is very useful for discerning when something's wholesome or not, or unwholesome. Does this lead to more pain? Is this harming myself or another? He said that's one good reason to think. But he also, and thinking is very powerful. We communicate. But to also start minding the gaps between thoughts. Learning to begin to appreciate that thought comes and goes, but it's happening within this ever listening, silent, knowing, all inclusive heart of awareness. Practicing the sacred word, mantra, and recitations also. If you're interested in exploring this, Adam knows a lot about chanting. We've chanted loads together. He knows introductory chants, he knows long chants, he knows the principle of chanting. But it can be a powerful tool, recitation, even just short mantra. When the mind's thinking of all this stuff, just even to allow some sacred sound. What do I say, sacred sound? Any sounds, even the word Om, that's called the mother of all mantras. Sacred sound, it's not just a sound. It's an intent of a sound. It's Om is honoring the totality. To honor the totality, let that sound in, and then have a moment of just listening and savoring the impact. So this is all part, even if one doesn't, excuse me, Kittisaro, thank you for offering, but not really into recitation. That's all right. Even if one's not into recitation, if one's into meditations, training of the getting thought being more skillful is important. And as all the meditations deepen, even the levels of peace, first level of peace has thinking with it. But it's not any old thinking. If we're thinking too much, we're just all over the place. First, we let our thinking just calm us down. Be in breath, out breath, for example. In, out. Letting, that's a certain kind of thinking. It's like when we're threading a needle. If you're thinking about too much, you can't do it. But at least with me, if I'm threading a needle, sometimes I'll say steady, steady. The word steady is quietly merging with my limited vision and my hands to just, and it quietly, it appears and dissolves and encourages me to stay right with what I'm doing. As the meditation deepens, you don't have to tell yourself steady, steady. So sometimes then the heart then just goes quiet. Even if one's not chanting, learning how to let thoughts be helpful. So certain words or phrases, when we learn them, they can be like, for me, I do quite a bit of recitation every day because it's also a friend. It soothes the nervous system. It reminds me to honor and plug in to the measureless qualities of wisdom, truth, and virtue. And then if I use a word or a phrase, it encourages me to keep coaxing the heart back into this deep root of listening, silent listening. So I wanted to share something that's been so helpful to me over the years. And like I said, if you are wanting to explore this more, Adam knows a lot about this. We've had lots of practicing together on chanting and communication about these principles. You're very fortunate to have Adam there and to have had all these years with wonderful guidance of John. So I send my blessings, my appreciation, gratitude, and well-wishing. The Buddha vowed, all the great awakened ones vowed to, because they realized we are ultimately of one substance, that this notion that we're all split up is a false notion, that we truly are of one substance. The Buddha vowed to help bring us all home to our true nature. So I really offer these words just of encouragement, and thank you for your attention. And if there are any questions, I think we still have some time, or anything you'd like to discuss, or any ponderings around things I might have brought up, then with Adam's help and the team's help, maybe I can be able to hear your questions. But much gratitude.
Thank you so much, Kittisaro. It's beautiful. So if you are in the hall and you'd like to ask Kittisaro a question, just raise your hand and I will come at you with the mic. Or if you're on Zoom, you can raise your Zoom hand or your physical hand or do something that gets our attention and we will call on you. All right. So I open it up. I think you stunned everybody into silence, Kittisaro.
This is Kai. I can't unmute that. I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm sorry you can't see me, but I just wanted to thank you. I really appreciated the little bit that you talked about Kuan Yin. I've never known very much about her, so I'm going to keep her in my prayers and thoughts. It sounds like a new exploration for me, so thank you.
Oh, yes, no. Tanisha and I are very deeply interested in how the teachings from our Thai forest traditions and these teachings around the Kuan Yin Dharmas merge. So we're, and I was, so sick for so many years, and the teaching around holding Kuan Yin's name, and then a longer mantra called the Great Compassion Mantra, just really revolutionized my practice. And so Kuan Yin is vowed to respond to those who make prayers or call on, because Kuan Yin's always listening to the sounds of suffering. But what's interesting is in the Heart Sutra, that succinct pointing to the timeless true nature, the kind of origin of Chan or Zen, is using Kuan Yin's meditation of that deep listening, the returning the hearing. So these principles around deep listening also merge so beautifully with the classical teachings of what I heard from Ajahn Chah. And it, like I said, it helped me go back and realize the power of, I was too greedy to understand how in Thailand they were using the simple mantra of Bhutto. For me, it was easier. Somehow the merciful language of Kuan Yin helped me use the name to relax a little more and sense over time how we are all being held in this ever welcoming ground of listening and compassion. But yes, please do explore Kuan Yin. To me, these teachings are really profound and life-changing.
Thank you.
We have a question in the hall. You can say your name.
Hi, I'm Merle. Thank you. This thing about Kuan Yin, I have some history with my ex and his family with Kuan Yin, but that's not what I want to go into. I just want to talk about, I use certain names to call upon when I'm feeling scared or desperate and looking for refuge. But I haven't heard a lot in Buddhism about these higher beings. We don't really, at least in this group, I don't hear a lot of, besides Buddha, of course. So, but yet I know that we talk about the devas, and I've researched a little bit online. So I kind of wanted to know if you could touch on some of these ideas of, I'm assuming, out of body spirits or energies, or that are possibly something we can use to further our practice and our spiritual growth.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Merle, for your question. And any sacred word or the great saints and sages, what they share is they're all pointing to wisdom, compassion, healing, love, courage. So a word, when one is caught in a swirl of worry or fear or reactivity, that's the a repetitive, a sacred name, a sacred phrase helps calm the nervous system, and especially if one is letting the name appear and then dissolve, then it reminds, then one can allow oneself to still feel the swirl of worry and doubt and fear, but begin to, rather than it being me, just as the sacred name comes and goes, and then we have a moment when the name is dissolves, of just savoring that, because for a moment it's allowed us to trust. A moment it's allowed us just to rest a little. And so then, so we're okay with the sacred name coming and going because it reminds us to relax. As we do that, then we'll be able to start to see, rather than the fears, the reactivity being me, we'll start to let it move too. because it's a pattern. It's actually a part of nature, but rather than being me so much, it's oh, there's fear. Wow, there's terror. There's and so the sacred name helps us learn to relax and trust more the depth of the refuge. Now, as to the unseen ones, in Thailand, we learned all sorts of chants, and we would learn these because the Buddha taught protection chants. He said, actually, this world is filled with unseen, and yet it's all rooted in one deep, unified presence. But we do get caught up in stuff. So he also taught that if we recite some of these teachings, he said, in a way, it gives us an anchor, and we learned and can discover again and deepen our trust in this deep refuge. So one of the chants we learned was inviting all the unseen protectors to come. And so we would learn these chants, and I just was chanting and liked. There's one thing about chanting and sound, and people who know about trauma know, when one's making sounds combined with the breath, it can be calming. And it's stabilizing because one's attention is on the body resonating. And if one relaxes, that resonance can move the energies. One of the chants we did was inviting all the guardians to come and bear witness to our recitation. I thought, oh, well. As I was doing the chanting over the years, more and more, I started to feel these presences. And I would think, oh, is there ants on my head? But it was just, there are all sorts of energies that are rooting for us that we don't notice when we're lost in the separation that's constellated by me and the world out there. So sacred word and recitation, followed by listening, allows the attention to widen. And then over time, we start to somatically get the experience of the forces of goodness that are also helping us. Yes, there are also currents, as we know in the world, currents of deceit, and we learn to patiently be with that. But that's why for me, the tangibility, is that a word? I'm not sure. The tangibility of a chant can help me at least find my body again. And when you're chanting, you're always chanting about things that are trustworthy: wisdom, awakened ones, compassion, the great beings dedicated to helping us. Then allows us to relax a little more, let our awareness be open. And then that's why, for example, sharing merit at the end, you might think, oh, I don't know, Kittisaro, it's a bit of a rite and a ritual, And well, on one level, yes. But the Buddha taught, we don't have to believe it, that when we do that, everything is connected. Over time, as these walls of the mind start to dissolve, as we listen into the deep, unified texture of this reality, when we do make sharings of our goodness, it's so tangible. And there's the real sense of the celebration from the unseen ones that are also rooting for us, because there are beings, and the Buddha talked about them a lot. Some like to dismiss it, and I don't think one has to believe anything. But just over my 5 decades of practice, I've noticed, wow, these aren't just empty gestures, that there is a response. So, but that's a mysterious ground, but I hope those words shed maybe a little light on that question. Thank you.
Merle says thank you. I think we have time for another question. If anyone has one. I have a question.
Okay.
Something I encounter when I'm teaching chanting is this: people have an anxiety over getting it right, getting the words right, getting the rhythm right, getting everything right, and they feel like maybe the chant isn't uh, quote unquote working if they don't get it right. So I wonder if you can comment on that.
Well, as someone with Moon in Virgo who can be obsessed with getting it right, I know, because you can talk yourself out of anything. Yes, there's a balance to, you know, to wanting to attune and to listen and to honor the tradition. So, you know, many of the chants that were chanted over time. But the essence of karma, remember, when the Buddha was talking about karma, the real essence of it is intent. And when one's intention is to just explore something, the Buddha was inviting and exploring. And all these sounds one is making, even if one doesn't know any of the sounds, any of the meanings, and if even one that just does a chant in one's, or sounds in one's own language, that are just appreciating this miracle of being aware. I'm making sounds now of appreciating that we even hear teachings of encouraging us to pause and listen into what's going on. I'm making sounds now appreciating that they're the technology of when groups of kindred spirits come together, that there can be a mutually empowering resonance that furthers us in a good direction. And so I just encourage one to just try, and don't, one gets everything wrong. But the gesture, we start to get a sense of, and I would start very simple, even with a simple mantra, or even with a, you know, the mother of mantras is even just Om. And I'm going to chant to share blessings. I'm going to chant a 6-syllable mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum. Many of you know that. That's one of Kuan Yin's heart mantras. Om honors the totality. Mani, M-A-N-I, means jewel. It's what luminous, multifaceted, sacred jewel are we talking about? The jewel of awareness. Om Mani Padme, 1,000-petaled lotus. What is that referring to? Well, this life has all these colors and textures, and dawn and dusk and good and bad and painful and pleasant, and all that's in between, all these petals of the distinctions that are continually shimmering and dissolving back into this jewel of luminous awareness. Hum is a power word that means amen. Om Mani Padme Hum. You can start with the simplest one and just notice what is it like to hold it even a little bit. So I encourage one to start, and then over time, and also Adam will be very good at giving you some advice about how to begin and get a practice going that's modest, but that can grow. And it ties in beautifully to the training of the mind, of thought. It is a part of the path that I really encourage one to just explore.
Thank you, Kittisaro. I'm wondering if you can send us out with some with a dedication of merit and some metta, and then after that we'll have some announcements.
Okay, beautiful.
Great.
I'm vibrating with the energy of mountain stream. Your presence, your welcome, our reflections, our collective, the energy of our collective contemplation around this wondrous path of awakening, of leaving behind, recognizing and transmuting confusion, selfishness, greed, hatefulness, discouragement, fear. This path, how mysteriously by honoring, knowing, investigating these manifestations, there can be the revelation of a unexpected blessedness at the heart of everything and everyone. That there is actually a peace and ease, that there is a path, patient path of beginning again. Appreciating our good fortune. May we kindly allow this good energy to bless every cell in our body as we breathe in and out, even those uncomfortable places. And share that with one another in mountain stream, online, or at your place of practice, wherever you are. May we be well, free from harm. May that kindness gather in the sacred ground of Mother Nature that's holding us. All the unseen ones, ancestors, lineages, teachers, beings near and far, good and bad. May there be moments of wishing. May the goodness of our time together bless all like a pebble dropped into a pool, sends ripples, ever expanding outwards with this gesture of kindness and sharing. May the blessings and goodness of our lives extend above, below, all around, for the true welfare of all beings. May all beings be free from suffering. May all beings awaken. May the fires of hatred and greed and confusion be dispelled. May beings return to sanity. Carrying this prayer with Kuan Yin's ancient 6-syllable mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 Om Mani Padme